I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Ballara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Ballara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Dr. Harry Nima Zegarra. Dr. Zegarra is a pulmonary and critical medicine physician, a real estate investor, an entrepreneur, and co-founder and manager of Nima Equity. Dr. Zegarra, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm very excited to talk to you tonight, and I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man.
Hey, Jason, how are you? I'm very grateful for you inviting me to your show. I'm very excited about it.
Yes, me too. Me too. Would you please go ahead and just kind of tell people your story, give us a bit about your background, sort of maybe your journey through medicine, and then where real estate fit in there?
Yes, absolutely. So my wife and I, we both are physicians. I'm a pulmonary critical care doctor, and my wife is a family medicine physician. We are originally from Peru, from South America. And that's actually where we met. We were in medical school together. We were in the same class. Actually, we spent like 7 years together as friends, and we didn't get to start dating until we finished our career. And after that, we decided to come here to the US to continue our training for better opportunities and also for better training. So we were very lucky and blessed that we were able to make the transition to the US. And as you can understand, because of the nature of our training, we were in different states in like a couple of years each area. So we were initially like in Pennsylvania we were in the Lehigh Valley area for 3 years, and then we moved to Philadelphia. Then because of my fellowship, we moved to Virginia. And after that, we decided to move to Texas. So in Texas, initially I was for 2 years in private practice. And then after that, we decided finally to move to Dallas because we had some family and also friends. And right after we came to Dallas, we really loved the area. So we almost immediately after 5 months, we decided to buy the house where we live right now. And as we were studying and researching, and we were prime already, like for some years into real estate. I think after a couple of months we start going really strong in real estate. Like initially, again, like in residential real estate, and in the last year and a half, we have been like more on the commercial side, more like in the apartment complex syndications.
Okay, awesome. And I think just a little bit of maybe background for people that don't necessarily understand the journey of medicine and being a specialist and things like that. You know, you're talking about living place to place for a couple of years, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is how it was for me, but basically you don't necessarily have a choice in that, right? People don't know exactly what, I don't know if you went through match day and things like that, but
Yes.
So essentially what happens is when it's time to make the next transition in medicine, you apply through this, sort of large database to all the programs you'd like to go to. And then you wait for match day, which is a day where your fate for the next year or several years is decided for you. And then you sort of up and move and do that. And so a lot of us in the medical profession, we've been through that and sort of lived in a number of different places because of that. So I know why when you said, you move from certain places and then down to Virginia, I understand, sort of what that process is. So I figured it'd be good to point out to the listeners that for a large portion of our medical training, we don't necessarily have location control, right? It's like, I want to get to where I want to get to, so I'll take the position that gets me there, kind of.
That is on point. And yeah, we don't have a choice in our hours. We don't have choice in the geographic location that we sometimes live for a couple of years. just to add a little bit more of flavor, I mean, like we were coming from Peru, from South America, where we had like a different health system, and we needed to apply. So it's kind of like a start, like a new journey in medicine here to the US. And of course, like you need to meet certain standards, like to become a physician in the US. So it's like you need to take a couple of tests, you need to come for interviews. So it was a great journey, but at the same time, it was kind of stressful and like really anxious about like if you're gonna make it or not, right? Like, and as you can imagine, like Peru is like a third world country, right? Like, so we came here and we do our best, like to take the test and to go to the interviews and all of that. But it's a big investment, right? Like, and it's also like a big risk for all of us who are coming from abroad to try to join like the medical system here.
Yeah, yeah, no, I and you know, I'm in the veterinary field, but people come from other countries sometime to the U.S. and they're in the other country, they're already a veterinarian, and some of them come here and all they can do is be veterinary technicians. They don't, there's, you know, whether they don't want to take the test or they don't pass or whatever, but it is a pretty rigorous system to get, you know, kind of translate that from another country to the US. And I think that it's, you know, there's good and bad to that, I guess, but I understand, you know, you would come here and almost not necessarily start over, but have a lot of this, probably the same hoops that you already had to jump through to get to that point. So kudos to you for, you know, kind of getting through that and establishing practice.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we were also very lucky and blessed that through all these years, even though we were doing like different specialties, we were able to continue living together. I mean, like we were not in the same hospital, but we were in the same town, city, doing our training and working. And sometimes even like for American physicians, that's very difficult, and that's what they call like a couples match, and not everyone is able to do it. So we feel very blessed and very grateful about like I mean all these years here in the US, like already 15 years and still living together. We didn't need like to split like at any point.
Yeah, no, that's a great point too. You were doing it together, which I'm sure is wonderful, having that support system going through it. But yeah, I know many people that, you know, sort of
it's great,
match day comes up and it's like one person matches in California, one person matches in Florida, and it's just like, okay, I'll see you in a couple of years kind of thing. So
that is correct.
I know very well how that goes, and I have I'm happy to be beyond the point of participating in match day, but I also have I train interns and residents, so they're essentially, we just match day was Monday, so we just went through this in the veterinary community, and there's a lot of emotions, a lot of emotions on that day for sure.
I'm with you.
Very, very interesting. So you got to Dallas. Now you're practicing. You're sort of out of the training phase, and you really sounds like you got sort of quickly into real estate and kind of. So how did you get started there? What was that, you know, sort of, how did that story go?
Yes. So yeah, you're correct. Like we came to Dallas and we knew already that we were very interested in real estate, but this just doesn't started like in Dallas. It happened like from before. Like so, like actually, when we were in Philadelphia, I had matched like in Virginia. So we were about to move to Richmond, Virginia for 3 years for my fellowship training. So we were trying to look for a place to live, and we were kind of wondering, and around that time, like I was getting more research and studying like real estate, and I got very excited about that. And just remember also that in 2010 2011 was still like when the market was down. There were a lot of foreclosures and short sales and all of that. So we actually decided to just jump in around that time and to buy like a townhouse for us. Interestingly enough, like the townhouse was a short sale. So I mean, and until that point, we haven't heard like, and we didn't know like what was like the meaning of short sale even. So we got actually that we were very lucky that we got with a very good real estate agent, and he helped us like through the journey of like of buying like a property through a short sale. And we actually like bought like that property, I think around that time, like in like a almost record time, and it was like 2 months or 2 months and a half. And if you think about like 2010 or 11, like people were taking like 3, 4, or 5 months to buy these kind of properties because there were so many requirements, and I mean, like it was very difficult. And then when we actually finished fellowship, we were moving to Texas after 3 years, and we decided like to actually to sell the property. And all surprise, I mean, like we found out like it had appreciated very nicely actually. So we sold the property, and we went to private practice initially, again, like for 2 years in South Texas. Over there, we really liked the area initially, and at some point we were considering in staying like in South Texas. And we actually also bought like a piece of land, and we wanted to build a house over there. And again, as I was telling you before, like, so we after 2 years we moved to Dallas, and we also decided to sell that piece of land, and also it had appreciated in just in a couple of years. So we said like, there's really something really good going on in real estate. So in the last 2 years that I was in private practice in South Texas, I was more and more interested in that, and I was, like the usual websites and podcasts, like the Bigger Pockets and the White Coat Investors, also that is for physicians. So I was very interested in that. So it's just after we came to Dallas, it seems like it was immediately, but actually we were brewing, I mean, all this idea about the real estate like for quite some time. So yeah, we came to Dallas, we bought our house where we live right now, and we decided to jump in. And initially in residential real estate, and you could ask me why, but the reason is I believe because that's the bread and butter of real estate in the US. And everyone who thinks about real estate and starts in real estate thinks about like single family houses, right? Like either flips or rentals, right? Like so. So that's where we started, actually. That's where we started in residential real estate.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the path that a lot of people take. And it's, interviewing people on the podcast, having, hearing people's journey and things. Yours is certainly very unique outside of real estate, but the path of getting into real estate almost accidentally, where you're like, oh, I bought this house and then I sold it a few years later and it was worth so much more money. And I was like, this is exciting. Like that happens to a lot of people. That happened to me. It was like, you're sort of sometimes almost, forced to see what real estate can accomplish for you, even sometimes when you're not looking for it. So, you have those experiences and want to sort of expand on them. And so you start in residential because, I mean, lots of people start in residential. That makes sense. It's the probably more accessible, quicker way to get started. And I would, at least for me, was less daunting than, sort of jumping into commercial real estate to take on, single family houses, do the flips, do all of that stuff. So what did you do? I mean, what were you doing flips? You were doing
so
sales?
we decided like to become landlords. So we started like buying and holding properties and become landlords and put tenants in there. And again, I'm very grateful about how we started because I believe like if we would haven't started like in single family houses, we wouldn't be where we are in this moment, and we wouldn't have made like the transition to commercial real estate where we are right now. So like actually, like again, as I was telling you, like our first property is always interesting because like it's sometimes when you feel that you haven't made like the best investment of all the rest, right? Because it's your first property and you just are starting and you're just learning and you're still not an expert, right? But we're so grateful about like the first one because again, it was like the way that we actually started like our journey in real estate. So we actually bought our first house with a real estate agent, and it was an on-market property. So it was like fair market value, and actually it was even like a little bit like more expensive because you can imagine like the Dallas forward market, even like 4 or 5 years ago, was still very hot. Yeah. And we actually, like the way we bought it, like there were like 5 or 6 bidders already like trying to buy the house. So we made like a cash offer. So we decided to buy the house cash, and then like we decided to put a tenant. And then when I was running like the numbers, I was like thinking like the first 6 months, I have made like a terrible investment. I mean, it's not cash flowing. And what I'm doing with this, and even like after 3 months, the AC broke. Like I said, like, oh my gosh, now like 6 months of cash flow are gone, or something like that. So, but yeah, I mean, you learn that way. You learn that way. Like, I mean, after that, and also initially we were trying to manage the property ourselves, right? Big mistake. You can imagine me being a physician full time, my wife being a physician also full time. We have 2 kids, like 2 boys, a 6 and a 10-year-old. They're super. I mean, we love them, but they're super active. They're boys, right? Like, I mean, they play all the time. They fight all the time. They go to sports in the afternoon. So you can imagine just how crazy it was, just even with one house. So I mean, after 6 months, we decided like to do the right thing, and actually and to hire like a landlord, like a property manager. So that actually opened many doors for us, in the sense that by that time I had been doing more research and more education about how to acquire more properties in other ways that could make a better return on investment, right? Like acquire like at like a better price. So I started like acquiring houses off market. And off market means like just mainly with wholesalers, right? Like, so these which are like people that are like intermediary, like in houses that haven't gone to the market yet. If people don't know, like probably 5% of all the houses that are sold in the US are off market, and for some reason, right? Like, I mean, either like the seller wants to sell the house super quick, or there's like a problem in the house where the lender or the bank cannot finance the house, like, or any problem like that, right? Like, so we were acquiring these houses also cash. And immediately we were doing some renovations, and we were doing the refinance, and then like to put a tenant in there. So like the classic BRRRR method. So and we start liking that, actually, and we start developing good relationships with wholesalers in the area. So like even until now, I receive like lots of emails like about like off-market properties. I mean, of course, I'm not there anymore, but I mean, I enjoy like seeing all these offers. But yeah, I mean, like, and that was the way we start growing, like with all these houses, and then is when we discover we really like, I mean, like the business of real estate, in the sense of you get to talk with many people, you get to work together with other people with different backgrounds, and to some degree you feel you're helping other people too, right? Like you're working together and helping the agent, you're working with your property manager, with your contractor, with the handymans, and also you're giving like some safe place to live to a tenant. So we really love that. The problem came like at the end of the year when you start growing and growing and you find out yourself with 8, and at the end we were having like and running 9 properties in just like a matter of a couple of years, actually, which by any eyes you would find it very successful, actually. But I mean, it was consuming a lot of time too, even with a great property manager, and we still own the houses until now. And our property manager is a great guy, and he's my personal friend now. But it's still like, I mean, like every week I'm on the phone with him and trying to take decisions about like different small or big problems that happen in the everyday, like of being a landlord. We also need to deal with insurance. We also need to deal with taxes. We also need to deal with mortgages. And at the end of the year, you can imagine that we're just running around and trying like to put all these papers together for next year taxes. So yeah, I mean, it was becoming more and more like a second job. So I mean, at some point, again, as I was telling you, like a year and a half, we decided to transition to something that would go more accordingly to our lifestyle, and that we can see that it could grow with us. So that's the point where we decided to go in commercial real estate.
Well, a couple of things I wanted to touch on. We'll move to the commercial real estate side, but a couple of things. One really good point that you made is that first deal, maybe it didn't feel like it was a home run, but it got you started, right? And it's such an important point. It's like some people, I think a lot of people think that the first one has to be this amazing deal, and so they're, running the numbers, analysis paralysis, if you will, and then they just don't do it because it doesn't look like it's going to be a home run. But it's like, if it gets you started, it gets you in the door. You have to look at this as a sort of a long-term game, in that you're not going to get rich on one property, but if that one property gets you started, and like you said, it opened the door for you, made all these, you made these connections, you had a property manager, now he's your friend. I mean, there's all these benefits that came to getting that first deal going. So I think that's a huge point for people to notice, is that, like, you just start somewhere. And it's a reoccurring theme that we run into all the time when we talk to other investors, but it's just getting going is huge. And the other thing, you sort of brought it up, but I was going to ask you, two physicians, I was going to ask you if you were self-managing these properties, and it sounds like you figured out pretty quickly that that was not, that didn't fit into your lifestyle and your
that was nuts
time constraints. Yeah, I'm sure it's a near impossible feat to kind of take that on yourself, on top of two physician schedules and children. I get it.
And you made a great point in the sense of, we're not expecting to make home runs every time we invest. We're just trying to make a good, sound investment. And again, if we wait for the best investment ever, it's never going to happen. So I mean, either you're going to wait forever, or you're going to make a huge mistake. So it's important to remember that.
Yeah. And the reality is, again, it's a long-term thing. So those properties that you bought, that first property, maybe it didn't cash flow tremendously, but I'm 100% sure it's worth a whole lot more now than it was when you bought it. Like,
it is.
Like, there's just the appreciation, the principal pay down, the tax benefits. I mean, all of those things that you can, sort of gain from real estate that aren't even the first things that people talk about, but they're, sort of incredibly important. I want to, let's get into the commercial real estate side of things, but I do actually want to talk to you and ask you some questions regarding taxes specifically, because I think there's an important point here. But let's go ahead and dive into sort of your transition into commercial real estate first.
Yes. So you make a great point, like in terms of taxes and depreciation, right? Like, so for anyone who knows a little bit about real estate, we know that there's great tax benefits for that in residential and commercial real estate, in both, right? So like, that's where we found initially, as you're saying, in the residential part, the journey initially was not the easiest one, right? Like, because we had some struggles. We're self-managing ourselves. You can imagine, I was going every week, like before we rented the house, to just water like the lawn and do, like I clean the house myself after going in the hospital. So it was difficult. But then again, like after the first or second year, like this, the situation was better. The house started cash flowing, and we got also some appreciation of the house. And like every time, like every couple of months, we review numbers and we see how it appraised. And we are very happy with that. We're very glad with how it has appreciated. Of course, you don't live your day by day, and you don't buy groceries, and you don't buy gas with appreciation, right? Like, you buy like everything with cash flow. So that's also part of the reason we decided to transition to commercial real estate. And again, making commercial real estate different, there are different fields in that. What we decided was to join like apartment complexes and the syndication model. And that's when we started. Like, again, like it also took us a couple of months, because we are true believers in education before we take any decision. But at the same time, as you mentioned, at some point you need to take action. So it took us like 4 to 6 months. That's usually like what people usually recommend, right? Like, and we initially tried to go, again, like the usual route, to conferences, to meetups, to do audiobooks, to go to webinars. right? Like, and at some point we were trying to figure out like that with ourselves, right? Like, and we found out like that again, like commercial real estate is to some degree different as residential, right? Like it's a different animal, as you might say. In residential real estate, I mean, like we still love it, but it's something that you can do by yourself. In commercial real estate, it's a team sport. You need to reach out to other people, and like, and again, we're physicians and we may be experts in our field, but when I started in commercial real estate, and I started super humble, and like I acknowledged that I didn't know like that much about that, so I needed to lean on other people who are experts, right? Like, so, and there's something important when you start on something, like especially in commercial real estate, is that you either have time, or you have a network, or you have a little bit of capital. So I didn't have that much time initially. So because I was already a physician and I was already a landlord, I didn't have that much of a network because again, like I didn't know that much people and I had been around only for 6 months, but we had some capital. So we decided to invest in our education, and we joined a mentorship group initially, and we were part of that group, and we were able like to grow with other investors like us. So and we were coming from different backgrounds, and that's something that I loved about like again commercial real estate, and also the syndication model. Like again, that you work with other people together. Every person has different set of skills or expertise, right? Like it's kind of like the same when I'm working in the ICU and I'm doing rounds. I mean, I rely also like on the nurse, on the respiratory therapist, on the nutritionist, on the pharmacist. You are also like a surgeon, and you can feel like about the same. So we felt that kind of same feeling about like working together with other people and growing together. Because there's something important. You cannot know everything about like any field, right? Like, so you need to rely on other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are great points. And I think I feel like no matter what background people come from, I feel like this with every guest I've had, it's like very varied backgrounds, but at the end of the day, whatever your background was, you may not think it coming into it. And certainly I didn't think so. You feel, you feel like you're coming in, here you are already, you're an MD, a specialist, and you and your wife are coming in. It's like, here's this room full of people that you probably feel a little bit like it's out of your wheelhouse. It's not necessarily where you fit in, but the great thing is that in the space, people seem to be very welcoming and open, and everybody recognizes it's a team sport. And so you're right, you kind of get in there and fill your roles. And joining the mentorship groups, one of the mentorship groups can really help that and can help accelerate that process. Yes. What role are you sort of performing in your commercial real estate? Are you primary sponsor? Are you investing as an LP, or what are you doing as part of your sort of investment thesis?
Yes, we're both. We're actually active and passive investors. When we joined the investment group, we also were very excited, and as you can imagine, you want to do everything, and every aspect of commercial real estate. But at some point, you need to be honest with yourself, right? There are some people. This is a really great field, but this is also a very, very competitive field. And there are some people doing this for years, and there are some people doing this full time. And you cannot compete with that. So you need to be honest with yourself, and you need to know what things you're good at it, and what kind of value you can bring to the table to help other people in this. So our main focus, actually since the beginning, was to raise capital, right? To raise capital, to be participant with investor relationships, to participate in asset management calls, also like to go and learn in due diligence and go and see these apartment complexes with our co-sponsors. But yeah, like we also, very important part for us is also to invest passively, because we also want to be on the other side, and we want to know and understand how these other people that come and invest with us feel about that, right? Like the relationship, the communication, and the trust with your sponsor.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It really does help to, kind of see both sides of it, and so that you can see if you're investing as a limited partner, and you can see how those sponsors handle things. You're going to see things you really like about it. You're going to see things that you don't like about it, and you can use those to sort of mold how you perform as a sponsor. And again, it's just going back to the correlations. This is something that I tell my residents all the time, right? They're being trained by a couple different surgeons. You can see how I do it. You can see how the other surgeons do it. While you're with each one of us and you're a resident, you kind of need to do it our way. But when you're done, you take all the best parts of everything that you learned and you create your way. And so it's the kind of the same thing in real estate. You can take from, if you're investing as an LP, you can take from those experiences and use them to better the experiences for your own investors as a GP. So I think
I agree.
That makes a ton of sense. And I think, being in the capital raising space, especially as you're both are physicians, also makes a ton of sense, because I mean, the reality is you hear all the time in syndication, like syndicators are targeting doctors as people who will invest in these things, right? It's like they're kind of they're looking for us. And so you have a built-in network. You said maybe in the real estate space you didn't start with a network, but you have a built-in network in the medical community, and these are hardworking physicians that have capital that need a place to put it to work. And so that's an opportunity that you can provide for them. And I see that as being a really good fit for someone, kind of living in both worlds, I guess, basically, kind of coming from, and it's not quite as time consuming to raise capital as it might be to, sort of being in acquisitions or asset management or whatever it is. It's time consuming around the time when it's time to raise, but you're not necessarily boots on the ground and stuff. So I think it fits a lot, and it allows you to get in as a GP and also learn the other components of it too. So if you decide to kind of expand your reach in real estate down the road, you've been exposed to all of it. So I think it's a fantastic plan.
Yes.
I do. One of the things I mentioned, I wanted to touch on taxes, because one of the things that people talk about a lot is the tax benefits of real estate, right? And so there are a lot of tax benefits of real estate. However, I have studied this extensively because I've been trying to figure out how to make this work for me too. But the reality is unless you have real estate professional status, you, in theory, cannot use those losses from your rental activities against your W-2 income, right? So
that's correct. That is correct.
So,
and I always try to talk about this with my investors and friends and colleagues, and very honest upfront, right? Like, again, like we're doing a passive investment, right? Like, so, I mean, it has great tax benefits in the sense of the passive income that you get, right? Like, and again, we mentioned like the depreciation, cost segregation, bonus depreciation, all these great things where you can depreciate like 50% of your investment or even more, like in the first year, right? Like in the subsequent years, which pretty much works and helps for the cash flow, mainly in the first 4 years. But then I'm very honest, like with them, like at some point you need to talk with your CPA or your financial advisor, and you guys need to start planning like for the 5th year where we're gonna sell the asset. So because on that moment you're gonna get these like all the taxes from all the time that you have been receiving the cash flow, which is like the depreciation recapture and the capital gains. So they need to plan for that. And like this real estate professional status is something that sometimes my wife and I we talk about that, and it's kind of like an idea like to get like, right, like she actually and I can tell you about this, she actually just recently took a break from clinical medicine just to focus more actually on our kids, because this for us is the most important thing in this moment. And we're even considering talking about like like her to help me with that. And if she's able to do that, she's going to be able to benefit me a lot with my active income as a physician too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you're sort of counseling your, investors, especially other physicians about it, because it's something that I think you hear out there, and maybe some sponsors aren't either. They don't, I don't know that they're doing it on purpose. They may not understand exactly the legalities
they may
of
don't
it.
know, yes.
But essentially they're saying like, hey, you're going to get all these great tax benefits. Doctors, lawyers, people with high W-2 income, please come join our syndication. And it's true, you're going to get tax benefits on, the tax benefits are only going to be usable on that cash flow, and you'll have some of those tax benefits will accumulate, so it will reduce your tax burden when that asset sells. However, unless you have real estate professional status, you, as far as the IRS is concerned, are not allowed to use this against your W-2 income. So it doesn't help you with that side of things. And so it's important for people to understand that difference. And then you mentioned your wife potentially getting real estate professional status. That's another component of this that actually me and my wife are looking into, is because if one of you can establish real estate professional status and you're filing jointly, now you can actually write
that's
off
the holy grail, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, what every real estate investor strives for. But yeah, because then you can essentially, I don't know that it's going to replace her income, but it's going to go a long way if it reduces your tax on your W-2 income substantially. Your take home is much better. So it's I'm not a CPA, so I'm not, but definitely
we cannot give legally advice on that. But
right,
I mean,
exactly.
like, that's like the way.
Just talking about something that we've both looked into because it's relevant to us. But yeah, talk to your CPA about that.
Absolutely.
If you want further information. But it's a very useful strategy, and as you said, sort of the holy grail of being able to get real estate professional status and have a W-2 job. It's challenging.
Yes.
So I thought that would be a good thing to touch on, because I'm sure that is very relevant to the people you're talking to as investors.
Yes.
Well, this is, I mean, we could talk about this all night, but let's move on to some of the questions that I like to ask each of my guests, just so I don't keep you here all night long.
Absolutely.
But the first one is what it's related to the name of the show, but what is your why? What drives you? What kind of pushes you to a lot of people would say you're already a doctor, you're already a specialist. Why bother? You're already incredibly successful, you and your wife. Why bother to do this? But there's a reason, and so I think maybe you could go into that.
And actually, I was very excited when you invited me to your show, because like I love like the idea of talking about your why. Yeah, for us, it's very easy. It's very straightforward. For us, it's our family. There's nothing more important in life than that. And we may have great accomplishment in life, right? Like in business, in our profession. But the most important thing at the end of the day is when you come back home and you are able to spend time with your wife, with your kids, when you're able to laugh with them. And again, like we sometimes work or spend a lot of time of our lives in training, in medical school, or working or helping other people, but we don't control our time. So we need to trade our time for money, right? Like, and that's what we're trying to do here, really. And that's what we're trying to do in my family, but also to share this information with other people, with other physicians, healthcare professionals, or professionals in general. Like, again, that there's other ways to get income, to get passive income, so you can think for the future, for you, for your family, and for yourself with.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. It's all about it's all about family for me, and it's time. It's being able to spend time with them, because it's real easy as any medical professional to get just caught up in helping everybody else and helping everybody else's family. And
Yes.
I'm sure you as well as I've missed a lot of holidays. I've missed a lot of
Yes.
events. But when I had my kids, I knew I had to do something to not miss out on those things with them. So
Yes.
it's a very vital, and I think I can share that sentiment with you 100%. I know, how important that is. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, we know like, we know like what is to work like on a holiday, on a weekend, or to work at night, or to work when there's like a birthday or a presentation of your kids. So that's
Exactly.
challenging.
I told you before we started, I'm on call right now, so I could be I could have to go to work tonight. That's just how it is. But
the nature of our
right,
work.
Exactly. Yes. It's part of this business. But that's great. So Dr. Zegarra, let's go to the second question and tell me something about yourself that maybe isn't common knowledge, that people don't know. A hobby, a special skill, something that just lets the listeners know you a little better.
Yes, like I love to run. I'm like an avid runner. Well now like probably a little bit more people knows about this because I've been talking with some people about like this thing in the last couple of months. I always like to run actually when I was like in high school and all of that, but I never took it seriously. And when I came to the US, I remember I was in the third year of residency, and I ran for my first time like a half marathon. And then after a couple of months, I ran again a half marathon. And then it comes like my first kid, the fellowship, like my second kid, and I wasn't able to do that anymore until just recently again. And it's all part of this journey of trying to discover yourself and find time for yourself and your family, where I started running again. And actually, last December I just ran a half marathon after 10 years. So I found it like great. And I mean, actually, I'm running another one like in April now. So yeah, I mean, it's something that I really enjoy. It also comes with a sense of freedom that you're just running. And sometimes when you run, you forget about all your problems and you're free, right? Like, so that's something I love.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you done a full marathon? Do you have any aspirations of doing a full marathon?
Yeah, that's with all these goals thing. So that's my goal before the end of the year, to be able to run one full marathon. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that, or I'm going to die in the attempt of doing that.
For sure you can do it. For sure you can do it.
I'll do it.
It's very different from the half marathon.
Yeah.
It seems like just doing this, but it's very different in terms of what the experience is like. But I don't do it anymore, but I used to do some marathon training, and I would just do it because I wanted to go to places that had like places I want to visit that were having a race. I would go run there. So it was fun for that. So yeah, it's a half marathon. I think it is, to me, is a little bit more enjoyable. The full, it gets a little bit brutal towards the end.
So I may like end up in the hospital, but I'm gonna try at least. With
you'll do it. You'll do fine. I'm sure you can do it. The next question: when people hear this, what's the best way to reach you? How can they connect? And we'll put whatever you like in the show notes so people can reach out.
Yes, absolutely, and thank you. So yeah, they can reach us like, with our website is Nima Equity. So it's N as in Nancy, IMA, equity.com, where we have also like our 7-day email course for physicians for passive investing in real estate. And we also have our YouTube channel, because as I mentioned before, we're very big in education. I mean, either it is active or passive, residential or commercial. We just want to give other professionals options, like to get to know more about real estate.
Yeah, fantastic. And we'll get that stuff in the show notes. Last question for you before I let you go. What piece of advice would you give to people that are, maybe a few years behind where you are in their journey and looking to kind of achieve the level of success that you have?
Yeah, there are a couple of things. Like there's like the preconceptions about like you're too young or too old like to start in real estate, or you're too busy, or you're doing a profession, or doctors should only be doctors, or lawyers only lawyers. There's always time to find when you're passionate about something, and do your research, do your education. But at some point, you need to take action and do it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's a if it matters enough, and that basically where this podcast came from, is if it matters enough, if you know your why, if there's something important enough,
you can do it.
You can do anything. The time is there.
Yes.
You just have to figure it out. So
yeah.
It's a fantastic piece of advice. And listen, I appreciate you so much coming on the show, sharing your story. I think it's amazing. I think what you're doing and what you're doing to help other people in the medical profession, and sort of find these opportunities and educate them is awesome. So thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for your time.
No, thank you, Jason. I'm very honored to be here in your show. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, with that, we will sign out. Take care, everyone.
I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Bellara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you.